What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Evening Alpha. I'm your host, Todd Wanish, 20-some-odd year veteran of comics and animation and startups and Web3, and you know all the deal. Anyway, you know that I love Evening Alpha, and you know that one of the things that I love about Evening Alpha is that we get to talk one-on-one. Really, it's a founder chat with the top projects in the space. These are legitimate projects, real people who are building real things, and it's our job to really not just to bring forward a project, but to really get to know the person behind the project, the people behind the project, because that's really in the long term, that is how a project is sustainable. It's like for all of us to get to know each other in the space and really understand what's working, what's not working, what fires we're putting out, all that kind of stuff. And so with that, I am super proud to introduce tonight's guest, Adrien from Tarana Cinema. What's up, man? How are you?
Gotta tell you, I was vibing to that intro music there.
Awesome. I know it's all dramatic, right?
Yeah, vibing 100%, just in the groove.
It's super good.
What's going on? Thank you for having me. I'm Adrien from Tarana Cinema, and I'm the writer-director of this epic fantasy series called Raymar.
Yeah, so let's start there. What the heck is Tarana Cinema, and what is Raymar?
So Tarana Cinema actually started as Tarana Kingdom at first. As a huge fan of Game of Thrones, I wanted to name my production company a little differently than others. And I had decided that, I love Game of Thrones. I love film. So it was like Tarana was like my brand and was my brand from the beginning. And I decided to call it Tarana Kingdom. And so it was Tarana Kingdom LLC. And with that, I made short films, I made music videos, and I also hosted an Instagram account, a profile Instagram account that told the entire history of cinema from 1888 to today. We're not done yet. We're doing it step by step, director by director, film by film. We're at the end of the 30s, early 40s, and I'm basically honoring the entire history of cinema. And that kind of became, Tarana Kingdom, no one knows what we're doing. No one really knows what we're selling. So that kind of became Tarana Cinema at first. And at first, I thought it was only going to be about honoring the history of cinema and the filmmakers that made cinema what it is today. And from there, I was like, it may just as well be the company. It may just as well be my brand. And so Tarana Cinema became the brand that I'm now hosting. And Raymar is the first NFT project from that brand, from that production company called Tarana Cinema. So that's kind of like the little tidbit of history of how Tarana Cinema came along.
So I like that. It's a really it seems like it was a really organic evolution, right? So you're kind of moving on this project and it's based on the history of cinema, and now you're kind of moving forward into that next step. And what interests me about Raymar, what I want to learn more about as a founder, as an entrepreneur, is it's described as the first NFT financed medieval epic fantasy. And this is what I find fascinating, is that we've spoken to other Web3 projects, film3 projects that have a focus on the epic fantasy element, but it tends to roll into gaming or RPGs or something like that. But this is film, right?
Correct. This is a series. This is live action, 100%. It stems from the little backstory of this is that it actually stems from a fan fiction. It actually stems from Game of Thrones fan fiction. It started out as being a huge fan and being super disappointed by the end. I started to rewrite the ending of Game of Thrones, the last 2 seasons, in my own way. And so I started to rewrite from the characters' point of views at first, in prose chapters, Daenerys, Tyrion, all of that. And I started mid-season 6 about. And from there, organically, came a brand new character and a brand new storyline in a world that didn't have to be connected to Game of Thrones. And that was called Raymar. And that was my longest chapter. And it was the chapter I was most proud of. And I was like, wait a second, this could be its own thing. This could be a brand new series. And so the pilot was written in a way because that became the pilot. The chapter that was a fan fiction of Game of Thrones became its own pilot. From there, it was an origin story in a way. It was the origin story of this character. And sure, it was connected to Game of Thrones when I was writing the fan fiction, but you change a few names, you change the setting, you change the lore, and it's a brand new thing. But vastly inspired by it, right? Inspired by it. And so I kind of wanted to do that. I wanted to make that happen on the screen, but no one was going to give me any money for it, obviously, at least in the film2 world. And because it was,
I like how we're calling it, just as a sidebar. I love how we call it now the film2 world. It's so good. I love it.
So the way I kind of like described it in my head, and this is not at all an official term, but film 1 for me is the relationship between the filmmakers and the studio. Film 2 is the relationship between the filmmakers and the independent production companies. And then film 3 is the relationship between the filmmakers and the audience.
So interesting. So something like Battleship Potemkin would fit film 1.
Film 1, 100%.
Both because of its age, obviously.
But even Spielberg, even Spielberg stuff. I would say film 2 would be Tarantino, Spike Lee, Steven Soderbergh. Like it starts there, and then the entire independent movement, American independent movement. I mean, sure, we could say that in France it started earlier, but let's just take the American system because the studio system in Europe is completely different. But if we take the American system, I would say like even till to this day, if you work for Disney, you're in film 1. If you work for like an independent production company to make your low budget feature, you're in film 2. That's kind of like how I see it. There's nothing official about it, but that's how I kind of like put it in my mind like that. And then film 3 is obviously the audience.
Right. What got you into like NFTs and what was that aha moment where you said like, because usually what happens with most people is this is what happened with me too, is something sparks the interest in going and looking at crypto or NFTs. All of a sudden you see that there's a universe out there that you didn't know existed. It's almost like the hero's journey, but applied to like, non-fungible tokens. You start playing with it, you buy it, you start flipping it or whatever. Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I completely understand how this is the future. And then you attach it to something that you're working on. So I'm curious as like, how did you get into crypto or NFTs? And then what was the spark where you were just like, I'm going to hook this up? Was it straight up like, did Raymar come first as an idea? Like, hey, we're going to do a film. What about NFTs? Or how'd that work?
Yeah. It's actually quite interesting because it's all intertwined. The Instagram account, the Raymar project, the Game of Thrones fan fiction, the NFTs, it's all connected. It all started at the end of, I had done this music video, which was called Is This Love, which had quite a success for what it was. It went to 50 festivals. It won like 23 of them. And for a music video, I didn't know that was possible. So it was pretty cool. And I kind of had rode that wave and then didn't really have any projects from there. And I was kind of struggling and I was a little bit depressed and I was writing, but I couldn't find really my project or the project I wanted to do. And then COVID hit. That was even worse for a little time. And remind me the date of the meme stocks, GME and GameStop and all that. Remind me that date. I think it was December to January 2020 or 2021.
Maybe you probably know better than I do. I remember
2021. 2021. Yeah, 2021. So January 2021. I was kind of like, I didn't know really what I was going to do. I was against social media. I was turning it down. I didn't have an account. I didn't have anything. And I realized that the world was moving and I was, staying in the back of the train, not even on the train. I was just missing trains. And what I realized was, I was listening to a lot of Gary Vee. I was listening to a lot of, just a lot of what was going on out there in the social media world. Mm-hmm. And the GME kind of hit. And then we started hearing about crypto. It was like, what is that? And then it's like, well, you have to invest in Doge, and then that started coming in, and then I guess there was just this general hype. Everybody was in COVID, but everybody was super excited online about this thing called crypto. Well, I had never heard of the word crypto before, not even Bitcoin, and I know it was
Wow.
around. I had
Wow.
never heard about it. I was not in that world. I was really in the real world, trying to be just a normal human, and that just wasn't working out for me. So I decided, okay, well, that's cool. So I started investing. I started to kind of learn about it and what it was, what was decentralized currency, and learning about all of that. A month later, we learned about NFTs because Beeple just made his auction sale. And it's like, well, it's this thing, it's this digital asset that people are buying. The hype was huge. Everybody was buying bullshit, you remember? And people were buying tweets and the color blue, right?
For the color, right?
And,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, I guess. It's just really dynamic and it just very energetic. And from there, I kind of was like, okay, how can I kind of fit what I'm doing with what's going on? And it wasn't the NFTs or the crypto at first. It actually came to social media first. I wanted to make a vertical short film for TikTok. TikTok was all the craze back then. It was still is, but back then it was the biggest hype, right? And it was like, okay, like let me make a short film for TikTok. Maybe I could make a few of them, and maybe that could be something, a cinematic short film. So I kind of but I was like, but how am I going to do this? Well, what am I about? Well, I'm about being a part of cinema. This is what Tarana Cinema is about. It's about honoring cinema. So I'm going to honor the entire history of cinema from beginning to end. So that started the Instagram account. And for the first time, I was on social media, posting every day to this day. And after that, I did that film. That was a big failure, and learned from my mistakes, learned from what I did wrong, and what it would take to take that and to take these kind of short films and to make them successful, to make them a thing. That would take me 3, 4, 5 years of my life every day, and that would just take the artist out of me. I wouldn't be able to create really. I would be just producing really at that point. And so that didn't really work out for my plans and what I wanted to do, because there are these stories that I want to tell, including the Raymar story, which is this fan fiction that I had seated on my desk for so long. And I was like, how am I going to make this happen? So from that failure of the vertical short film, I started to think again, okay, so what's going on with NFTs now? Because NFTs now had grown quite significantly, right? Because at this point, right, the point that I heard about NFTs was I think like around that time that Jordan Bain and the NFT Film Squad started building film3. That it was around that date. It was January, February 2021. So you can imagine that it took a year and a half, right, to build and for everyone to come in and to see potential. So at that point, I was kind of ready to go. And when I realized that, then I got actual funding I got private. One part was private funded for Raymar. I actually got funding thanks to a contact that I knew. My producers and we work with these people, and these people have been wanting to invest in films because there's this tax code. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but the point is, I had partially private equity. And so I couldn't make the movie, but then I discovered film3. Then I discovered the potential of film3, the potential of community, the potential of collaboration, the potential of utility. And I said, whoa, let's hold on for just a second. Like, can we move the date? Not to December. I was supposed to shoot at the end of the year. Let's move the date to February, early next year. And let's kind of see how that plays out. Let's see what this thing is, what Web3 is, film3 is. I believe there's so much potential in there. And that started my journey into film3 about a month ago. Actually, yesterday was my 1 month anniversary in Web3.
Nice.
So a month ago, and started to meet all these people and discover all these new things. And kind of realize, what it takes, and that it's a beautiful thing, and I want to be a part of it, and I want people to be a part of my film, and not just this one, but every single film that comes after that. I want to create a community before the film comes out. So that was a big thing for me. That's kind of like overall how I came into the world.
Yeah, man, I think that's awesome. It's a really good intro and a really good story. You said a couple things. I took some notes. One of the things that you said that I was really curious about, and I can relate to, and so I'm curious as to your take on this. I am so, with a background in traditional animation and toy. I mean, you name it, I've probably done it, right? I also did a lot of work with digital marketing. So I understood the power of social media. Yeah. I understood how to create funnels and advertising campaigns. And the reason I learned, I went deep into that area for several years. The reason I went into that area is because I sucked at it, right? I had gotten to the point by the time I was in my 30s where I was able to produce any project, any product at a very high level. So I had won awards in multiple different genres, from music videos and animation to web design to web apps, like you name it. I felt my craft had hit a level where I knew that anything that I put my mind to, I could create, and the bar was set. Might not be the world's most magical, oh my God thing, but the bar was definitely there. The problem that I had was the whole marketing side, because I had focused so much. Like, I had hit my 10,000 hours and by the time I was like 18. So I was so tilted into craft that I didn't have any skill set developed towards marketing and promotion. And so I focused on that. One of the challenges that I had and still have is that even when you're working with advertising campaigns and marketing, you can be on social media without being on social media. Meaning I might go into Facebook because Facebook has Instagram and all these kind of things. I might go into Facebook and do a marketing campaign, but I might never log into Facebook to see the feed. And I may never go to Instagram to look at or update any images. So you and I are very, I think, similar in that, while I wouldn't say I was social media zero, right? I never updated that shit, and I still don't. I'm very bad at it. And that idea of kind of missing a train, I understand that feeling. So how do you approach it now? Do you just say, fuck it, I'm in and I'm going 100%? Like, how do you go from zero to saying, okay, I have this film and I need a community, and I'm going to be bringing this community together with the film, but then it's a chicken and egg thing because you need the community so that the film happens, and yada and so forth. How do you go about going from social media zero to then starting that whole process?
0 to 100. And I've always been that way in the in everything, and that's a gift and a curse. When I used to drink heavily, I used to drink a bottle a day. 2 years and a half ago, I quit, and I haven't drank a sip in 2 years and a half. When I started smoking, I smoked a pack a day in the first week, and then that moved to 2 packs, pack and a half, 2 packs, until 2.5 years ago, and now I smoke 0. Social media was the same thing in reverse. It's you go from 0 to, I go to 0 from 100 on most things. I don't just watch 100 films. I'll watch 1,000. It's either or with me, and sometimes that's fine, and sometimes that is a problem because it can be unhealthy. It can be a lot of things, and sometimes there's an imbalance in the work ethic. There's an imbalance in the schedule, and it's something I struggle with every day. And every day I have to, I don't know how to say this exactly, but like to
moderate
yourself, like to force yourself to sometimes do things, when you don't want to do them, to push yourself to do it no matter what. And I kind of have for the last year and a half, I've been branching out. I'm on TikTok now. I'm doing Game of Thrones House of the Dragon videos. The last one got 30,000 views and it's climbing. So let's see where that goes. But yeah, it's kind of like been my biggest issue is time management, right? So that's the thing I struggle with the most. That's what I have to do because it's 24/7. I wake up, I'm on Twitter, then I go to make a content for TikTok, then I go in production for the film, and I go do storyboards and concept arts. Then I go back to Twitter, I go back to a space. Sometimes I host a space. Then I have to, do the tweets and do the Instagram post because I'm running a tournament right now for the films from 1914 to 1939. And then blah yada yada yada, right? So it's so on and so forth. It never stops. So at some point, you got to say, okay, now is the time for me to let go and go out and take some air, right, and breathe. Or it's my time. It's time to stop and go watch a movie or something. And it's something I haven't done in quite a while. So that's the biggest thing I'm struggling with.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because I think that's something that all entrepreneurs struggle with, right? Like this stuff is not something you turn off, right? It's not something you turn off and like you wake up thinking about it, you work, you go to bed thinking about it, and I think we're all gifted with the same 24-hour session, and it's just a matter of
not everyone. Beyonce has more than 24 hours. Sure.
Fair, sure.
I mean, there's no way that Beyonce doesn't have more than 24 hours.
Right. Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, basically, like the idea that you have to sit there and say, okay, here's all the stuff that I have to do, and here's the way that I try to manage it, and I think it's fascinating. One of the things that fascinates me is just how much work professional, quote unquote, professional social media is. Meaning I'm doing this for a purpose. It's not like, oh, I'm going to say hi to my grandma, or I'm just going to post some. I'm in the studio and I'm like the way we used to do it, right? Is I just did a sketch or I did this painting and I'm going to take a photo of it and I'm going to post it.
Yep.
Right. And that was it. It was really, maybe I get some followers and maybe I can sell something one day, or maybe someone will come to my website and they'll buy something. But that's sort of like the amateur tier. The pro tier is like I'm on Discord 24/7. Like right. I'm on it from the time I get up to the time I go to bed. I'm on Discord more than I am email, which I never thought would happen because I'm on email pretty regularly, and Twitter. Like Twitter, I'm on, but I have to remind myself to post because it's just not I'm not actually a big fan of Twitter. I like it. I like NFT Twitter. NFT Twitter is fucking awesome.
I agree with you 100%.
But I deleted everyone else outside of like a couple of friends and NFT Twitter.
Yep.
And so that I can do and I can respond to. But it's a fascinating dichotomy of saying like, okay, part of the job is how much content can you push? And maybe that goes back to even some of the things that you were saying about kind of getting inspired by someone like Gary Vee, who is just like a content edgelord with the amount of content that dude pushes out. Right. Like his entire life is recorded basically, like everything. He records a street video before going into a meeting that he records, before hopping into a taxi that he records, before going onto stage and doing a stage pitch or a stage talk at a conference that is recorded. Before recording, I mean, the guy just records everything and pushes it.
I'm exhausted by just hearing about it.
Right? Yeah, like it's just insane. It's just insane. Yeah. And then he's got another team that cuts all that stuff up and re-edits it and pushes it out in different formats. So it's just like a stream of film 24/7 basically. And I wonder if that's, in your opinion, especially coming from the film3 storytelling side, do you think that's going to be the norm for people like us, for founders or people who make stuff? Do you think that the Gary Vee sort of like social media 24/7 is sort of the future, or do you think there's another way to go about it? Like in your experience?
I hope there is. I think that I don't want the Gary Vee life, right? I don't want to have I don't want to have to do this 24/7 my entire life. But I think I'm okay with doing it for a part of my life,
Mm.
right? For I believe that, it's an interesting question. You look at Logan Paul, you look at Star Wars Theory, and you look at Gary Vee, right? Three examples that could have nothing to do with each other, right? One is about marketing and business and entrepreneurship. The other one is about vlogging, and the other one is about doing Star Wars theories, right? They all have one thing in common. For at least for a minimum of 2 years, they have been the most unhealthy they've ever been in their life
You're
because of how
right.
much they have pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed the medium to get where they're at. Now, it's always the question of where do you want to get at? What is your goal? What is your destination? What is that you want to do? I want to write it direct. I don't necessarily want to own $1 billion business, right? So I'm not in that boat. I don't want to be in that boat, and I'm not in that boat, and I don't need to be in that boat, right? When Elon Musk wakes up, yeah, Elon Musk's life is unthinkable, right? It's unconceivable, and he's a billionaire because of that. I don't want to be a billionaire. I'm not interested in being a billionaire. I'm interested in telling stories. So it's all a question of what are you trying to do, and then a balance, and finding a balance, and that is individual. That is only based on every individual. So I think that, again, with those three creators who are at the top of their league, right, of their category, right, they have put themselves in situation that are, Mike Tyson would wake up 2 hours earlier than the competitor. It depends how you see life. If you see life as a competition, I don't see life as a competition. I believe everybody should go at his own pace, in the way that he wants to go at. I am naturally more lazy and more prone to procrastination than others. So I have to work harder. I have to push myself harder. I know my limits, and I have to, and because I know my limits, I need to work according to those limits, and not try to be Logan Paul or Gary Vee or
Right.
Star Wars Theory, because it does not work with me. I
Mm.
will not be more efficient. Gary Vee talks about this, by the way. He talks about this all the time. He doesn't say to do what he does. He says,
Mm.
if you want to buy the Jets one day,
Right. Right.
then,
You have to do what he does. Right.
then you do what he does. And again, I don't, maybe he'll succeed. We'll see. But you guys, a long way to go. But the point is, um, the point is that we're all different, and so we need to understand our limits. I think that's the most important part.
I think that's so important. Such a great point. Did you ever read the blog post? It turned out to be a very famous blog post. 1,000 True Fans. Have you ever
No,
read this?
no.
You should Google it. It's
Okay.
still up. It's been up. It's been around. I think it came out like 2000. I want to say 2010, maybe even earlier. But basically, 1,000 True Fans was the article just on some dude's blog post that launched the concept for crowdfunding.
Okay.
And what basically 1,000 True Fans is it was a conceptual piece that just explained that now in the time of social media, based on simple math, if you had 1,000 true fans, a true fan being defined as someone who would who loved your work enough to purchase whatever it is that you put out.
Yeah.
Right. And in the context of the article, it was bands, right? And so it was like, if somebody buys your CD, because we're talking a decade ago here, if someone buys your CD, they go to the show, like they buy the CD, they go to the show to watch you live, then they go over to the merch table and they buy the shirts, the posters, or whatever. If they are in, right, deep enough, if you have 1,000 true fans, that is, on math, basically a six-figure income that you as an independent creator could live off of and survive deep enough to make your work for your entire career. right?
Fascinating.
Doesn't mean you're Metallica or whatever, but it does mean that you would have enough support mathematically to continue to do whatever it is that you need to do or want to do inside of your career. So the goal became 1,000 true fans, right? And it's a very fascinating read. I highly recommend it. I think it's been so long. I want to say the guy's name was Technodrome, but if I'm wrong, it's only because I haven't looked at the article in like a decade. But it's really good. Very, very simple. But that's also what spawned ideas like Indiegogo or Kickstarter and GoFundMe. The idea that like if we gather people around a project,
sure,
you could start to scale that.
Sure.
What I'm curious, you know, inside of Film3, well, inside of NFTs in general, you know, we've been through almost like this first turning where last year was the hype cycle FOMO corner of the adoption curve, right? And I talk about this all the time, where, you know, people last year were just buying anything. You know, oh, it's a pile of shit with sunglasses and laser eyes. I'm totally buying that for 10 ETH, right? Like it's totally worth 10 ETH.
I would love Red Letter Media to do a review on last year's NFT hype.
Oh my god, that would be
his voice,
brutal.
you know, in the Plinkett, you know, character.
Yeah, that would be brutal. But it would actually be pretty good. But last year was kind of like the FOMO buy whatever came out year, because everything kind of went up. So you just bought whatever you wanted. And, you know, that came a lot of great projects and a lot of crappy projects. The interesting thing, and we talk a lot about it here and internally and in our own Discord is, you know, when we came out as a storytelling, I mean, we were screaming storytelling from the rooftop saying these projects are not going to be long lasting. They're not building story. And that there's a big difference between design and character. And that's it. We were doing character. A lot of these other companies are doing design. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a night and day difference if you're trying to build intellectual property or a long-standing brand. And this just comes from my experience, right? It's just, I've been doing this 20 years. So when we came out as a storytelling project, there were maybe one or two other projects that I can think of that were claiming, at least like at the forefront, saying we're storytelling projects. And in fact, when we started Evening Alpha, internally we said, hey, well, let's try to start with storytelling projects. And when we run out, maybe then we'll move on to, as long as they're legitimate, we'll move on to other NFT projects. That was several months ago. And not only have we not run out, quote unquote, run out of storytelling projects and storytelling founders to talk to, but the space is growing rapidly, in my opinion, which is wonderful, because I'm like, yes, this is where it is. Like, what I'm curious, do you see that the same? And if so, like, what do you think in your own mind, like, what's the difference between like a traditional NFT project and a storytelling NFT project, if any?
I think it depends on what how we define story, because some would say that the Bored Ape Yacht Club, have no story, but they do. In their own way, right? When you look at their backstory, when you look at their roadmap, when you look at what they're trying to do, I mean, I'm not that interested in it, but it does have a story. So it depends. I think it depends of how we define that, and are we talking about storytelling in the, in a film medium, or are we talking about it just in an art? In an art medium in general, or we talk about the story of the founders and the story of a community, because a story could be written, as it's going, and I feel like that's what the CryptoPunks are doing, or the Seppi Seals, or the Lazy Lions, or the Feline Fiends. They're writing their stories as they go. So I think it depends on that. I believe the one make or break is utility. I think that story is fundamental. The why is fundamental. Why do we do this? Why should we care? Why, the why is fundamental. But the utility at the end of the day is, I feel like, what people are gonna come for, and then they're gonna stay for the why, but they're gonna come for the utility,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that utility is, that I think is an important part. It's a fundamental part to think about when you come out with any NFT project. One of the utilities that we've decided to have is, one, the collaboration aspect, where a community can come in and write together the rest of the Raymar story, right after the first episode. The first episode is written, but everything else is not. So it's up for grabs, and I want community to be involved in that. That's number one. But number two, I want to involve them in the filmmaking aspect of it, right? In the filmmaking world of it. I want, in the mint, 9 or 10 people could snatch an internship under cinematography, production designer, costume designers, whoever they want, right? And if, because we can't have too many people there, if you're not one of the 10, then you could still do video chats with the director, the producers, the costume designer, right? And we could schedule an hour every day with, like, or for a period of time, or maybe after the shoot when everybody wind down. But anyone that ever wanted to make a movie, you can have a film school at your fingertips with Raymar, with the Raymar project. And that's not just for this project. That's for every single project after that. That's the main utility that I want to bring to people.
That's awesome, man. That's wicked. Really quick, we're going to jump in the chat and say hello to everybody.
For sure.
Stefan Bubli, what's up, man? How are you?
That's
Welcome.
Fun. That's actually my brother. And
hey!
That's my older brother. I didn't know. I was thinking to myself, how am I going to send this to him after? But he's here, so we're good.
Awesome. Welcome. Willie D, what's up, man? Welcome. LFG. Natasha, what's up? Welcome. Let's go. Dusty, LFG. Always got to say hi to Dusty or everyone gets mad at me. KG, what's up, man? Evening, gentlemen. What's up, KG? How are you doing? Massive, what's up? Welcome. Massive says LDG. Please tell me, Massive, please tell me that the D stands for duck or ducking. I know it does. Let's duck and go. That's a massive thing. We gotta. I'm guessing. I'm guessing, but I'm pretty sure. Carrots, what's up, man? Evening, fam. Happy Monday, everybody. What's up? MK Chronos, good morning. Sorry I'm late. That's okay. We'll forgive you. It's all good. MK, thank you so much for coming as always. You rock, sir. Rageous, what's up? Hey, folks. What's up, Rageous? How you doing, man? Happy Monday. MK says 1,000 True Fans was Kevin Kelly. That's right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the name of his blog was like Technodrome or something like that. But Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans. It's a classic. It's, I think it might be at this point in time, it might be the kind of thing where you read it and you're like, well, duh, well, obvious. But at the time, it was absolutely like, it's still a fantastic read. Stefan says, what up? And Massive says, 100%. Boom, I knew it. I absolutely knew it. Hell yeah, that's great. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you guys, everyone, as usual. Thank you for showing up. So, Adrien, so I love the idea that you're bringing in the community. You're bringing in the community almost like you call it a film school at your fingertips, which I think is a fantastic byline. I think that's, as a log line, that's fantastic. How are you? What's your ideas in terms of like how to bring people into actually writing the story? And I'm asking this because we do something every Thursday called the Lore Games, and it's a gamified writers room where it's basically a spoiler show, right? Where we're like, hey, if you want to be surprised about what we have coming out in terms of story, don't watch this, because it's basically our 30,000 foot view as we, as a group, as a community, plot out all of the major milestones of the universe. So think of it as the MCU, and we're talking about, and Thanos is gonna, like, you're gonna know everything, right? And the reason we do that is that if you have those big giant milestones set up, then you know where you have to, where you're going and where you're coming from. So you can start to create other stories and other events that lead breadcrumbs. You can start to create breadcrumbs throughout the universe, so you have a sequential, continuity based timeline. And it's incredibly, it's a hell of a lot of fun, but it was a shit ton of work to figure out how to actually do. So and everyone has their own style and ability and kind of perspective on this. What are your thoughts on bringing community in to actually writing a script together or writing a story? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually would follow the model of Dragon Forge NFT. Are you familiar with that account?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So Dragon Forge does that already. He has in his Discord, um, is collaborators. I believe there's about 25 to 30 people that can be there at the same time. And he comes in, I think, with a plan, with a kind of synopsis of where we're going, like a sort of timeline, and then you fill in, and then they fill in the blanks. But I think like there's a way to do this, like on the Discord, you could have a writer's room and actually drill down ideas. Okay, what happens to Raymar after this? Where does he go? Who's the main villain? Has anyone come up with a character? Or, just drill down ideas. Talk about it in spaces on Twitter. Yeah, you can make spaces just for that, just for character building, just for world building, and then you synthesize it. Then myself and my team will synthesize the what's been written, and if it makes sense, to make it make sense in a cohesive storyline. So that's kind of the plan.
Interesting. I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it just takes correct me if I'm wrong too, but I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's just going to take a lot of experimentation too.
Oh, trial and error, 100%. This is all trial and error.
Everything. The whole freaking market is trial and error.
For sure.
Willie D has a great question. He says, will this project be completely funded by the NFTs? Is there a chance outside funding will be needed?
Right. So that's a really good question. That's the what we talked about earlier. So I do have private investment, private equity in this. The movie, the pilot is happening in February. With the NFT funding, we have a better pilot. Now, we have an amazing pilot that is going to be shot in early February. With NFT funding, we have an even better one, which means we can pay better crew, which means we can have a badass mermaid sequence at the end, which means we can have all of the things that I absolutely fucking want. But the movie is still happening with that private equity. So it's all about community. It's all about who we're bringing in. Think about it like Reservoir Dogs. When Tarantino wanted to make Reservoir Dogs, he had spent 10 years writing and getting nowhere. When he wrote the script of Reservoir Dogs, he said, I'm doing this no matter what. For $10,000, for $15,000, I'm doing this. Lawrence Bender, his producer and his partner at the time, read the script and said, no, this is too good. Let me go and find real money behind this. Let me go and find real producers, real distributors. He said, no, I'm not doing that. I've done that for 10 years. Lawrence says, okay, give me a month. If in a month there's nothing, then we can do the movie for $15,000. He did. He found Harvey Keitel. They put in $1.2 million and they could make the film that you watched. But with or without that money, Tarantino would have made that movie. So it's kind of like that situation that's going on right now. So it is happening. It's just a question of, are you joining us or, so that's the lowdown.
I love that. I have to say, because I think it becomes first sidebar, Mermaid stretch goal for the win. But I do like that. I like that. I think it gives people a sense of comfort to say, hey, look, we have the funding for this. So it's going to happen either way. Anything that's added from an NFT sales basically a sweetener. It's you being involved, right? Whether you want to be involved or not, it's going to happen.
It's you making a better movie. It's you making the movie better and being involved in the collaboration after that, and et cetera, et cetera.
No, I think that's great. I think especially with the way the market is, and it's getting better, but especially how the market was like last year, where there was so many rugs and so much bullshit. Like I think it's such a huge strength and such a feather in your cap to be able to say, look, this thing is funded. Like, we're doing this with or without you. But we want to do it with you for all of these reasons, right? I think from a, and this is just speaking, I can only speak for myself as a collector, so I'm only one data point. But it really brings it home about the seriousness of the team, the seriousness of the project, and the legitimacy of the project. Yeah. And there's a comfort, I think, in a purchase, at least for me. Everyone do your own research, of course, but there's a little bit of at least a little bit of the feeling of safety to say, oh, okay, cool. So it's not like if these guys only sell 10 NFTs, they're going, oh, so sorry, we didn't hit our,
No, but what could happen is, like, if we only sell 10 NFTs, then the internships are kind of a no-go, right? So there are prices to pay somewhere, right? And it's all a question. So but it would be more on the utility that you would forfeit than on the story or the film, because the film and the story still works.
No, I think that's great.
It's still great.
I think that's awesome. I think that makes total sense, and it feels it's a clear division as well, right? And it's smart from your side, because it's not like mission critical. Like, everything that's mission critical is taken care of. So that's really smart.
There's also no way in this market that I would realistically get the budget for this kind of epic. There's no way.
Right.
There's absolutely
That's
no way.
True. Mm-hmm.
So it would make no sense to do this in the first place. So yeah.
So what's your plans to roll out? Like, how are you going to do the do the whole go-to-market thing with this?
You mean the NFT drop?
Yeah, just where is the project now? Like, you've got the funding, everything is, I assume, it takes a long time.
We're in development. We're about to cast. Mm-hmm. We found a wonderful casting director. We're about to get the casting. We are finishing up the tiny little tidbits in the script. We are doing concept art, storyboards. So we're doing a lot of that. We are putting the development together before starting pre-production. That's where we're at on the production side. The art of the profile pictures NFTs that will drop in end of November is also being done as we speak.
Awesome. And so if the art's done in November, does the rollout, does the mint rollout happen in November or December, or is
Correct.
that
November? Correct.
Okay. So the art gets done, and then you do the launch, and you kind of have it sort of by end of November-ish.
Correct. End of November, December, January. You guys have 2 months, to be a part of this. And it won't be too expensive. I'll make sure that that the price is affordable for everyone. That's also very important. And also, the internship is not based on how much money you have either. It's based on the mint. So you could get it, for the same price that someone else, So
it's actually like it's like the utility in the actual NFT.
Correct. It's in the NFT itself. So you have a chance to get it in the mint. Now, of course, the more NFTs you hold, the better credit you have. So you can have an executive producer credit by yourself if you're the top holder. You will have the script handed to you, mailed to you in a beautiful cover with the original chapter delivered to you in a silver and golden platter, if you're a top holder. But in terms of internship, in terms of learning, in terms of video chats, in terms of all of that, I want this to be equitable.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What? So you're to your earlier point about going from 0 to 100, right? Which I can totally relate to, by the way. What has been your biggest challenge so far? Because this is a big bite of the apple, right? Like, you're not just having to go, like, building a film from scratch is no easy task, right? It's a mountain of work. And then you're also adding a second mountain of work, which is the NFT and community management and that ecosystem building. And one of the things that I talk about a lot and with founders is just that, because I don't think a lot of general public, whatever, I don't think a lot of people understand that, like, people see the Mint and they see Discord and they see Twitter, and if things aren't happening, if things aren't blowing up all the time, they think something is maybe may not be good, and certainly sometimes that can be true. But what also is true is that teams are just like heads down working on this because it's so much. So what has so far, like, what have you found to be like a struggle for you in this?
Besides the time management, I would say health. I would say mainly health. I'm alone doing this. By alone, I mean, of course, I have my production team, but in the Web3 world, I'm alone. I don't have a dev. I don't have a social media manager. I do it all. So for now, I'd love to have one, but so far, it's the beginning, right? It's the early start. So I'm doing it all by myself, and so I go to bed very late. I go to bed at 4 a.m. right, and I wake up at like 10, right? So 9 or 10. So little sleep, eating habits are not great. Just mainly the health, I would say, like the lack of discipline to say, okay, stop, go outside, take a breath, go do something else. That's my main struggle, is the lack of discipline on that end.
Is it just drive that gets in the way of that discipline? Because
yeah.
I know consciously, we as founders, we know that if you just turn the fucking computer off and go to bed and get that extra 2 hours of sleep, you'll actually be way more productive the next day. Yet
100%.
we don't do this.
100%. And yet when we're it's kind of like, it's getting, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It's time for dinner. It's time to unwind. And you're like, but there's still so much more to do, right? But there's always so much more to do. And so you always, instead of saying, okay, that's okay, there's much more to do, you'll do it tomorrow or you'll do it later. It's like, no, I have to do it now. So and there's also so many different content, right? The TikTok content has nothing to do with all this. It's House of the Dragon content, right? The YouTube content is something else. The Instagram content is cinema. The Twitter content is Raymar, right? So it's so you have to, and it's all interlinked, right? But it's all connected some way, but it's still different. So you have to switch your brain every time. And I look at the calendar, I'm like, oh fuck, there's that to do as well. And you have to do the accessories, and you have to get on a space so that you can let people know that you're there and that you exist, right? And you have to bring value to those people so that they remember you, and also just to bring them value. So there's quite a lot, and it's just networking, really. It's a mix of productivity, and networking, really. So yeah, the struggle is with the lack of discipline, is with the yeah.
What have you thought? What are your thoughts on how to fix it?
Just do it, but like, it's so too easy to say, it's like, well, just go outside and do it. Just stop, just actually stop. It's kind of like, what are your advice for, what would be my advice to stop smoking? Well, just stop. But that means nothing, because it's I feel like I've gone like I kind of try to do like exercises every week. I kind of try to like let go of some stuff and like put the phone down and airplane mode it and just go outside and do some stuff. But again, it's a discipline, I think, just like anything that you need to force yourself on. But it's kind of always like, well, I don't need to go out. I don't feel the need to go out, but I feel the need to go on Twitter and all of that, because I need to do Raymar, right? Mm-hmm. I need to do Raymar in the way I want to do it. And the way I want to do it is that way. And so for it to be done, I need to do all of that. Right. Whereas going outside for my health, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling sick. I'm not feeling, so the triggers are different.
I will say one of the things that I do, I mean, without going into super, we can talk later about it, but
sure.
Like I spent years developing a system, like a productivity system for myself. And it's something that I've given to clients when I did a lot of like, for years, I've been an advisor and mentor to venture-backed startups. And so it's kind of like some of the stuff that I've trained them on. And one of the, without getting into the nitty gritty of how the whole system works, the TLDR and the smallest piece that you could take away and activate now is if you set up your week and you divide. So you have a task list, right? Maybe you write it on paper, whatever you do, however you have it. Maybe it's a text edit, or I don't know, however you set it up. If you every day you just pick the number one thing, and I call them hits, right? The hit is the thing that I have to knock, I have to hit it. If I hit it, it moves the ball forward, right? It's the one thing that if I do not get that done, the project doesn't move forward as it needs to move, right? So and you may have like a couple of the challenge that entrepreneurs have is that everything is important, right? Like you have, if it's like, oh, well, just choose the top priority, and then you look at your list and you're like, well, everything is top priority, you have to get it all done. But the deal is to look at your list and say, okay, these are the top 4 things that I have to get done this week. Top 4, like these are must get done, must. And so I just label them as hits. Everything else becomes a to-do, meaning a to-do is something that I have to do, but I can schedule it for later, right? If I don't get this thing done now, if I don't send this email off to this person now, it can wait. It's important and I need to get it done, but it's not as important as the contract or contacting this other person with this deal that we're negotiating, whatever it is. So you label them as a hit, and that goes right to the top of the stack in terms of what you do that day, right? It might not necessarily be the very first thing. Like for us, we do, the team does, like we do a stand-up call in the morning. I'm a parent, so I have to take kids to school, right? That's like 6 a.m. So like I'm out the door. But in terms of actual work productivity, it's the very first thing. And what ends up happening is as long as you get that hit done first thing, or as close to first thing as possible, and you move on to your to-dos, well, that to-do list is eventually going to be never ending. So you can move those. You know what I mean? You can actually start to cap those off and move them around, because the thing that you absolutely had to get done to move the ball forward and to move the project forward and to move the company forward got done.
That's a good point. What you're doing is basically prioritizing in the tasks. That's a good point. And also to get back on what you said, when you said what else, there's the health part, which is one thing, right? The sleep habits and the eating habits. There's also the social life. The social life has took a huge hit.
Yeah.
So
your social life is now social media life.
Right. It's social media life. Yeah. There's no life outside of my room.
Yeah. Well, I think that doesn't change. I don't. That doesn't. Well, it used to be my social life used to blend over into coffee talks. I was doing this, but I was doing it in person at a coffee shop in Midtown Manhattan. And I was just talking to as many people. This is how you make connections and network, and this is how business is done and deals are made. And then when COVID happened, it became Zoom, right? Or it became or whatever. So it's an interesting situation. But I don't think the social thing, I don't think ever changes. That you do have to force yourself to get out. Otherwise,
that's true. No, but that's the same thing. It's like you don't get out because you're doing this, and you'd rather do this than go out and have fun with friends. So it's chicken and the egg.
It is. It really is, man. Well, dude, this has been fantastic. Where should I direct people? Where can we point people to find out more about Tarana Cinema and Raymar?
Follow my Twitter for sure. That will be all the updates are going to come from here. Subscribe to the mailing list. It's on the top of my profile. Go to my website, raymar.xyz, where you can find all of the info about the project. You can send me a DM at any point. I'll answer any questions that you may have. On top of that, if you're a cinema buff, a film buff, and love the history of cinema, you can go on my Instagram, Tarana Cinema, and I honor the entire history of cinema from 1888 to today, every day. So right now we're in a tournament. If you want to participate, you're more than welcome to. And that's kind of like all of my socials. And also House of the Dragon videos daily on TikTok. I don't know if you guys have started watching the show. If you have, there's light spoilers ahead, but they're on my TikTok. So
awesome. Well, Adrien, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Everybody, go check out Raymar. Hit those links. Go check it out. It's a fantastic project, fantastic founder. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to us, leave a comment below, let us know what you think, hit the bell for notifications, all of that good stuff. We definitely helps us out and gets the word out. And Adrien, man, super good to have you, man. This is fantastic. I cannot wait to see what you're going to do with Raymar and with Tarana Cinema.
Todd, thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely brilliant. And that's actually one of my first podcasts of that kind. I mean, I've done podcasts before, but of Web3 native podcast, you popped my cherry. So
welcome, man. Welcome to Web3.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And, I'll see you around. I mean, I'll see you in the spaces and the DMs and
absolutely. We'll hang out for just a second. You stick around. Everybody else, thank you guys so much. Evening Alpha, all the links. Hop in the Discord, come say hi. Everybody, thank you so much. And you know the deal. God bless. Love you guys.